I honestly don't even know where to begin with this one. I've been thinking about this review, about this show, almost obsessively for the last few weeks now. It's all I've spoken about on Twitter, to the point where I've no doubt people are getting tired of it. I've thought about this show no doubt more than its own creators have at this point. I've thought about it more than it deserves. And, to be honest, this wasn't even a good show. There was so much that I didn't like, even hated about it. So why can't I stop thinking about this goddamn show? Welcome to Tokyo Vampire Hotel. Careful of the blood spill in aisle 3, and prepare your body for one hell of a ride. Let's take a look at this hot mess that, for some reason, I damn well can't stop thinking about. Let's get a few basics out of the way. Tokyo Vampire Hotel was directed by Sono Shion, for which many of you should be enough to let you know what you're in for. Sono is certainly a distinctive creator, for better or worse. He's no doubt most famous in horror circles for movies like Suicide Club and Tag, but he's had quite the lengthy and illustrious career at this point. He's also the type of director you either love or hate. There's not usually a lot of in-between. Not to delve into a deep analysis of his style, but Sono tends to, well, excess, I suppose. An excess of style and attitude. Characters are over the top, stories are over the top, sets are over the top, actors are over the top, violence is over the top, etc., etc. It's not for everyone, and he can be pretty divisive because of it. I've tried numerous Sono works over the years, and honestly, his style is something I should like, but it always seems to fall just short. So when I saw his name in the credits for Tokyo Vampire Hotel, well, my expectations were certainly set. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. If you follow me on Twitter, then you'll know that I've been on an Asuka Lin kick lately. I've been watching and even reviewing quite a few of her works. And when looking at her filmography for anything I might have missed, I noticed a TV show called Tokyo Vampire Hotel, in which she apparently appeared. I'd never heard of it before, but holy hell do I love vampires. So Din and vampires was all I needed to know. I was in. Even better, the show was super easy to find. You can watch it on Amazon right now. So, of course, colour me surprised when Nin was killed off in the first few minutes of the opening episode. That's not really a spoiler because, well, first few minutes of the opening episode. To say I felt bamboozled would be an understatement. But hey, we were already watching, so might as well keep going. Maybe they'd do something interesting with the vampires, right? Perhaps it wouldn't be a total loss. Vampires are traditionally a hard sell in Japan. I've never delved too deeply into why, but vampires as a genre just don't do well there. To be honest, a lot of traditional Western creatures don't. But it's very difficult to find, well, anything on vampires in Japan, outside a few very, very bad movies and TV shows, and a smattering of anime and manga. So, if Tokyo Vampire Hotel could deliver, even outside killing the entire reason I started within the first few minutes, well, I'd forgive it. It did not deliver. No, let me rephrase that. Tokyo Vampire Hotel is a horrible, horrible show. I wanted to quit numerous times across the first few episodes because it was so bad. I had to force myself to keep going at numerous points. Once again, it appeared that Japan had missed the mark on vampires. And yet, we kept watching. I found myself drawn in, caught in the traditional Sono excesses, and absolutely beguiled by, well, one character in particular. Yes, the show was saved by one very hot lady. I'm not gonna lie, this one character got us through the show. She's not even a main character, not really. One of the side characters at best, and doesn't even get a name until the final episode. Yet, if you followed my live tweeting as we watched the show, you'd easily be forgiven for thinking she was the only thing in it. She really was the only thing that saved it. Oh, and Lin did show up again, but more on that later. So, what is Tokyo Vampire Hotel about? A very good question. I could make an entire video on the batshit insanity that is Tokyo Vampire Hotel's plot. It's the type of thing you read and then you sit down and contemplate whether you actually saw that right or not. At its most basic, it's a show about two warring vampire clans. You have the Dracula clan in Romania on one side, and then the Corvin clan, situated within the Hotel Requiem in Japan on the other side. Easy, right? At some point in history, the Corvin clan subdued the Dracula clan and forced them to live in caves deep underground, never to see the surface again. The Corvin clan, neo-vampires without the weaknesses of the old-school Dracula clan, such as a fear of crucifixes, laid claim to the planet and fed however and whenever they wanted, with no rivals to stop them. Still following? It all makes sense so far. Not terribly deep stuff. This is all introduced in the opening scroll of the first episode, so you get a nice big info dump to start the show. It then goes on to tell us that in 1999, the Earth, Sun, and all the other planets in the solar system aligned in a giant cross in the sky. This was called the Grand Cross, and it was prophesied by the Dracula clan that a child born at 9:09 and 9 seconds on this particular day would be the one with enough power to save them, to free them from the underground and allow them to roam the surface once more. And perhaps more importantly, save them from the end of the world as we know it. As it turned out, 3 babies were born in Japan at this precise time. They were fed the ancient blood of Dracula and then sent back out into the world to be raised under the careful and watchful eye of many Dracula clan helpers until they, hopefully, reached the age of 22, at which point the prophecy would come true and they would free the Dracula clan from their bonds. So far so good, right? Well, even just trying to understand that from the show will be an ordeal, and that's about as straightforward as it will ever get. Did you know that the Hotel Requiem is actually located between an ancient Japanese princess's, well, legs? Did you know that old vampires, once they start losing power, will eventually turn into hotels? Did you know that people live in the fleshy walls of this hotel, constantly copulating and cutting themselves to feed the ancient princess so that the hotel can stay in operation? Did you know that this hotel, or princess, or whatever you want to call it, is basically a warp zone that connects Japan to Romania through, the space between her legs and various underground tunnels? If none of that made any sense, then welcome to Tokyo Vampire Hotel. The actual plot of the show revolves around Yamada, the man gunning to become king of the Corvin clan and take over running the hotel. Currently, it's being helmed by the mother of his girlfriend, Elizabeth Bathory, who is played by Sono's real-life wife. Yes, she's Japanese now, I don't know why. It's often better not to question things in this show. And this mother, she's the sister of the Japanese princess that is currently the hotel. Both of them are many hundreds of years old. I don't know either. But at any rate, she's scared that she's going to turn into a hotel soon as well, which Yamada is kind of counting on so he can take over. But Yamada is only one of 3 main characters. We also have Kei. Yes, her name is just the letter K, and as it turns out, she's a member of the Dracula clan, making her and Yamada rivals. She's in love with the current leader of the Dracula clan and thus wants to do whatever she can to help free them. She's not bound by whatever keeps them stuck underground, so she works up top to find our 3rd main character, Manami, who is the only surviving baby who was born that fateful day and then fed Dracula's blood. It's Manami who will save the Dracula clan, but not if Yamada has anything to say about it. The first time I watched the show, none of this made any sense to me at all. You're introduced to an incredible amount of lore, clans, characters, rivalries, factions, and prophecies all at once, and you're given basically no time to settle in. I had to watch the show a second time to actually start piecing it all together. But the second time around was actually much, much better in that regard. You can spot the seeds that were sown right at the beginning that wouldn't pay off until the very end, by which point you would have forgotten they were there anyway. But it does make sense. You're just not given any time to adjust to it. Now, while Kei wants Manami so she can help the Dracula clan break free of their bonds, Yamada has something else in mind. You see, as a baby, Yamada's father, the now Prime Minister of Japan, sold him to the vampires. Those vampires then raised him, and eventually turned him into a vampire as well, presumably because he and Elizabeth fell in love. But because of what his father did to him, Yamada grew incredibly bitter and despised the world. He wanted it to end, as the prophecy suggested it would. But he himself didn't want to die. And of course, for a vampire to keep living, they need human blood. So, Yamada came up with a brilliant plan. He would invite 100 men and women to visit the Hotel Requiem for a coupling party. This would happen on the night the planet was prophesied to be destroyed. He would save them, you see. By keeping them in the somehow safe confines of the hotel, they would live as the final remnants of humanity, and thereby be a constant supply of blood to the vampires of the Corvin clan. The humans would procreate, by force if necessary, giving the vampires an endless supply of blood, and ensuring they alone would survive. The perfect plan. I won't go into spoilers for how it all ends, but naturally it's a Sono creation. Nothing ever goes to plan, and I have to say, episode 7 of this 10-episode series has to be one of the most epic things I've ever seen put down on film. Just 40 minutes of balls-to-the-wall batshit action that never relents. It's certainly a thing. But this brings me to probably my biggest issue with the show. It's just so damn boring for much of its runtime. The entire show is 6.5 hours long, split across 10 episodes. For some reason, episode 8 is split into 2, but either way, it's 10 episodes. But you could probably cut 4 hours of that and still be left with almost nothing missing from the story. In fact, there's literally a movie cut that does just that. And while I haven't seen it, I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out compared to the full show. The pacing is absolutely atrocious. It feels like 3 different shows. You have the first 2 episodes, which are mostly set up. They're predominantly set in Tokyo, in the real world, with some flashbacks and a small trip to Romania here and there while the various characters and their histories are introduced. Then we get to the hotel portion of the show, which lasts for the next 5 episodes. Here is where you'll probably want to smash your face in with a mallet to pass the time. There's no reason for this part of the show to be so long. It's apparent that Amazon just gave Sono a lot of money and said, have fun. And so he did. I read an interview where he even said he just wanted to make a vampire movie, but Amazon gave him money and, well, you don't turn them down when they ask you to make a show, so that's what he did. Then you have the final 3 episodes that might as well be yet another show entirely after all the business at the hotel goes down. There are even brand new characters introduced just for the end. In fact, most of the characters at the end are brand new and only appear for the finale. It was certainly a choice. My other issue, and this is probably connected, is that numerous plot points were introduced and then dropped like a hot sack of potatoes, never to be seen or mentioned again. Remember Elizabeth Bathory's mother, the sister of the princess/hotel, who feared she would turn into a hotel next? Yeah, well, once Yamada takes over as king, you would expect that would be the end of her, right? Except they keep her around. Okay, so they must be planning something for her, right? Except they don't. During the ruckus that is episode 7, she's kicked under a table and that's it. You never see or hear from her again. Then there's the Dracula clan, one of the biggest plot points of the entire show. They want to break free, right? That's literally the entire reason Manami exists. It's why Kei exists. Without spoilers, their storyline also just ends in episode 7 and that's it. Never seen or mentioned again. Just gone. They were kind of the point of the show. I figured that once the hotel storyline had run its course, we'd see the remaining characters have a final battle against the Dracula clan, but... yeah. No. Alright then. Two birds could very easily have been killed with one stone here. The hotel plot drags on far too long with zero story to back it up. It's clear that Sono had a great idea, but then had no idea how to fill 5 episodes worth of story with it. So, he didn't. At the same time, he had several other storylines on the sidelines that could have easily been explored and filled that time instead, and yet he did nothing with them. It was such a wasted opportunity. But setting the story aside, at the very least, Tokyo Vampire Hotel is a veritable feast for the eyes. This show is pretty. Sono took that Amazon money and built a fantastical, gorgeous set out of it. The hotel is a thing of beauty. The costumes are also fabulous and stylish. Style is pretty much Sono's brand at this point. You can almost tell at a glance if something is his work or not. You'll also see a lot of skin in this show, but funnily enough, no actual nudity. There's a ton of cleavage and even a few butt cheeks around the place, but I guess there's some Amazon rule that says no real nudity, which then makes for some hilarious sex scenes in the show where people are still very clothed as they simulate, well, you know. And it's a Sono production, so there are a lot of sex scenes. Sono remarked that he always wanted to do a vampire movie because he finds them sexy. So, yeah. Of course, blood is also a heavy requirement when it comes to Sono's work, and considering this show is about vampires, you'll find blood by the gallonful. There are comical amounts of it, particularly in the blood fest that is episode 7. So if blood makes you in any way squeamish, you're in for a bad time with this show. This, of course, goes hand in hand with the violence, that is also Sono's trademark at this point. Plenty of guns, plenty of knives, plenty of swords, but surprisingly, few vampire fangs. Not going to lie, as someone who enjoys the vampire genre and has seen a lot of brutal deaths on screen at their hands, I was intrigued as to how Sono might handle the genre. But well, he didn't. The majority of the vampires still use guns and swords to take out their enemies, because in this universe, vampires die to a bullet to the head like zombies, and sadly, there are very few people dying at the end of their fangs. There's even one character who I don't think ever got a name, so we just called him the spinny flippy ninja guy, whose whole riff is that he's a spinny flippy ninja guy, despite the fact that, you know, he's a vampire who could easily destroy people with his sheer size and teeth. He's played by the lovely Iwanaga Joey, a man known for his martial arts prowess, so I understand it. But still, it would have been nice to see some of the vampires let loose and tear out some throats with their fangs rather than just use guns or even their fists. Which brings me to my final point. The side characters in this show were by far the most interesting, and Manami is quite possibly the worst main character I've ever had to endure in my life. If you remember my scathing review of Deathblog, well, it's like the actress went to the same acting school and spends the entire show up until the finale bent over like a newborn deer, barely able to walk, hyperventilating her way through set after set and occasionally peppering that with screams and some tears. Manami is supposed to be the heart of the show, the prize that the two clans are after, but in the end, she's never fleshed out to anything more than a tool, an object they need to obtain their goals, and that's it. The show briefly tries to make you feel bad for her by having everyone in her life call her a monster, and her fighting back against that, but it gets lost in how absolutely infuriating it is to watch her constantly bent over and hyperventilating and doing nothing of worth. I struggle to even call her a main character. She's more the objective that the other main characters are striving for, and if you replaced her with like a box with some special blood inside, you really wouldn't lose much from the show. Because that's all she is. A human flesh bag that was fed Dracula's blood as a baby, and that has now made her something in between human and vampire, and all anyone wants is her powerful blood. Meanwhile, the side characters, in particular the trio of spinny flippy ninja guy, hot vampire Magenta, and her unnamed friend with the butt cheeks, easily steal each and every scene they're in. If there was a show that featured just these three, I'd toss money at it each and every week. They were the only thing that kept me going when I very much wanted to quit the show. They're just so decadent. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but you could squeeze pretty much all of the personality and style of the show into these three characters, with a little leftover for the flamboyant Yamada. They're stylish, they're brash, they're comical and over the top, and, as is Sono's trademark, they are excess. They chew the scenery of every scene they're in, forcing your eyes to look at them even when they're just standing in the background. And, let's be real, I've never wanted a lady to bite me more in my life. I've written a whole 20+ minute review because this lady and her gigantic hair kept me glued to my screen to see more of her each episode. And surprisingly, her and her butt-cheeky friend were some of the very few characters to make it through to the end of the show. The show isn't afraid to kill characters off, and every episode I feared they would be next, and my interest killed with them. But, small favours, they lasted all the way until the end. I won't spoil what happens there, but they will at least bless your eyes for the duration. And if Sono wanted to make this jaded old lady happy, he'd make a spin-off where these two worked their way through various eras of Japanese history as vampires. I'm just saying. If you ask me whether Tokyo Vampire Hotel is a good show, I'd say, no, it's really not. But I can't stop thinking about it, or talking about it. So that's something, right? It's probably a show where you should know what you're getting into beforehand. As I said, I went into this show because I saw Asuka Rin was in the cast list and she was killed off in literally the first few minutes. Bamboozled. Except not really, because she showed up in numerous episodes after that as a maid at the hotel. The greatest unanswered question of all. Rin seems just too big of a name to include randomly, so my headcanon was that she was a vampire sent to watch Manami all along. After all, she got shot in the stomach, not the head, so easy for her to survive if she was a vampire. But it's never explained, like so many things, and you only see her in fleeting shots amongst the other maids, so that added a whole nother level of bizarre to the show for me. But, that being said, if you go into the show knowing that it's going to be some crazy bullshit with large sections of boredom, highlighted with brief yet intense moments of brilliance, well, it'll probably make for a better viewing experience. And, as I'm sure Sono expected, the show seems to rate better with Westerners than it did back home in Japan. There are of course people on both sides of the fence regardless of where you are. Some who enjoy the show's excesses and style and don't let a slow plot get in the way of that, and others who think this is the biggest pile of drivel they've ever been forced to watch. But taken as a whole, well, it doesn't seem to have fared all that well in Japan. Lots of comments like, as expected of Sono, the story was a mess. Something you'll watch for the over-the-top acting. Is this all we can expect of Japanese film nowadays? The story was long, but nothing was explained, so I just didn't understand anything. It was just plain bad. On Amazon, the show has 48% one-star ratings in Japan, compared to 34% in America. Pretty unfavourable across the board, but especially so in Japan. Vampires really are a hard sell there, and combined with Sono's unique style, well, Seems it didn't go over too well. But at least he expected that, and he also got paid, so I'm sure he's sleeping just fine at night. This show wasn't good. Yet, I watched it twice. The second time, a marathon of the entire show in a single day. And I'll damn well watch it again. It's a weird concoction of fantastic ideas turned into a terribly dull and dry storyline, of mind-numbingly boring main characters held up by fantastic side characters. It's a show where an ancient Japanese princess vampire is literally a hotel that other vampires live inside, and the world is about to end because one baby was born when all the planets aligned in just the right way, and so she got fed some of Dracula's blood in order to save his clan in 22 years' time. It opens with Nakagawa Shoko gunning down an entire bar and ends with almost an entirely different set of characters to the ones we started with. Characters who are introduced literally in the finale. It's not a good show, but I'll damn well watch it again. After all, it's the only place I'll see hot vampire magenta again. But what about you guys? Have you seen Tokyo Vampire Hotel? I know a bunch of you started thanks to my non-stop talk when I was watching it, but if you have seen the show, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. It certainly is a divisive show. But stay safe guys, and I'll see you again next time.